So I think that inherently good salespeople know what they are supposed to do. The biggest obstacle to that is action.
I love to get to know people.
Yeah.
Like if I don't love small talk, but if I'm going to actually interact with someone, let's go somewhere deep. I like something that's actually meaningful.
Not one day in this business has ever felt like sales to me.
Welcome to a private conversation with me, Steve Robbins. I'm sitting down with some of the biggest names in Indianapolis real estate. I've enjoyed these conversations immensely, and I hope you will too. A big thank you to Executive GM Ian Soroyan and his whole team for hosting us at Cunningham Restaurant Group's Commission Row and Mel Speakeasy, located in downtown Indianapolis within the Pacer Sports and Entertainment Complex. Check out the show notes to learn more. And now, my conversation with one of Highgarden Real Estate's best and brightest, Mark Branch. Getting to know people, that's what I'm wanting to do with this.
Yeah.
And so what do you think about where I'm doing it?
So my best friend and I had dinner here, and we came down, and it's just, the aesthetic is amazing.
I know.
And it's got really a good vibe, and I hope that it does really well. I think it will. We were sitting and eating and watching people play basketball out there. It's just a great energy. I love downtown so much. I mean, obviously, you know that this is where a lot of my business is, and so it always excites me to see something new that is going to be good for downtown.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I mean, it's a cool partnership between Cunningham Restaurant Group and the Pacers and the Pacer Sports and Entertainment Complex here. And, we were talking Caitlin Clark, who recently here drafted by the Fever. She's coming in here today. There's people outside waiting for autographs. This place has an energy.
I know. I was feeling very much like they were waiting for me.
Right, of course. I wanted you to feel that way.
Yeah.
So
I was like, wow, he went all out. And then I saw basketball jerseys, and I was like, that's not me.
Did you ever play basketball?
No.
Any sports?
I was a competitive cheerleader.
Yes, I did know this.
Yeah.
We can come back to that.
Sure.
So downtown, let's just you're a real estate agent, real estate professional with Highgarden Real Estate. You've been with us for a while now.
3 years.
3 years. Wow. But you have a really good story of how you got into real estate and how you really kind of kicked it in. I really wanted to talk about that a little bit today because it's inspirational, honestly. So how'd you get into real estate?
Well, how I got into real estate, I worked at Roche Diagnostics. I was the assistant to the vice president of diabetes care, and it was it was a great job. It was a cubicle, though. And anybody who knows me, I guess I didn't know myself that well then. I'm not a cubicle guy. So I would...
I know you well enough to know that.
Yeah. I lived in Broad Ripple, and I would go in Meridian Kessler riding my bike a lot. And I would see a certain real estate agent's signs everywhere.
Okay.
And I thought, this guy is killing it. Like, I don't know anything about real estate, but I kept going to the open houses. And I never met him. And it's a funny story because I only met him for the first time 2 years ago. We had a cross transaction. But he and his presence was actually, it's Matt McLaughlin.
Okay.
He doesn't know this. I think I might have mentioned it to him. The catalyst for me just starting to explore real estate. And it would be his assistant or someone associated with him. But I just thought, I want my name on a sign, and I want to sell houses because I come from sales. And so that's why.
So you wanted your name on a sign? Why?
I wanted something that was mine.
Okay.
I wanted to own something. I wanted to have the autonomy to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it and to build it as big as I could because I had that modeled for me in a big way growing up. And as much as I enjoyed getting to meet people at Roche, it was not my jam.
Did you tell Matt McLaughlin that story?
I did at the closing. Yeah, I did.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if he received it with the kind of
Whoa.
but it was definitely that was the catalyst for it, for sure.
And so how long were you in real estate before kind of shit hit the fan for you? Because it did.
It did. So, to be completely honest, I don't think a lot of people know this about me, and I have opened up in the last couple of years because I think that it's really important to have transparency. And the business has changed.
Yeah, it is.
A lot. And
what year was it you started?
So I started in 2008.
Okay.
Great time, right?
Oh, well.
Not a great time.
Yeah, trust me. We can talk later about my having lived through that. But.
So when I started, it was a title. I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't need the money.
Right.
And I liked the idea of it.
Okay.
And speaking to the transparency, it's an ego-driven business.
Yes, it is.
And so, and I was an ego-driven person. And so there's a lot of shadow work around that I've come to get through. So when you ask when did I get into it, I got into it in 2008, 2009, and I was with a great company. I was downtown because this is where I've lived, and really long story short, my best friend in the entire world, my mom, came down to do a shopping trip and spend the night because we're from up north. She woke up blind. Her organs were failing due to complications of diabetes, and it was never the same. So when I say it was never the same, I grew up in a real fast way, and I always felt like I was mature, but with that, she almost didn't make it. So not only is my best friend dying, but with total transparency here, I used to put my bills in an envelope and mail them away. My mom and dad did very well, and that's a whole different story that I struggled with, but when that happened, I realized that we did not have, I had to take over finances. I realized we didn't have money. My dad had owned and operated with my mom companies. He passed away when I was in 6th grade. When you don't have those companies anymore and you're spending as though you do.
Right.
No fault. No judgment. She was amazing, and it's hard. It's hard to. I haven't opened up about this a lot, but it's hard to even talk about because she did the best that she could do. You do the best that you can do with the information that you have at the time.
Absolutely.
And she raised me, never remarried, and we were so close. And so seeing her in the way that she was, and then realizing we had no finances, I made some decisions to sell the last property that we had. That was $1 million, and $1 million sounds like a lot of money until you don't pay taxes.
Wow.
So $287,000 in debt, ego-driven business, driving an Audi A8, multiple cars like we had always had, and now I can't tell anybody.
What year is this now? You started in 08.
This is 2012. 2011, 2012.
Okay. So you've been kind of acting like you're a real estate professional.
Yeah, I was living the life I'd always lived.
Right.
And this was a shock to the system. And so what, the glory in that is there was a lot of I was just talking to a friend the other day. I showed up to go on a trip, tried to pull money out of the bank, and the IRS had levied my accounts. And I had to look that up. I didn't know what that was.
Right.
So I can laugh about it now, but it was a dark time, and nobody knew about it, and I literally had nothing. So in 2012, I made $19,287 in real estate, and I turned it on. And in 2013...
Whoa, hold on. How did you turn it on? So obviously, a lot of people would go into a very dark place and not emerge for a long time.
No, I did, but don't have that. You don't have that luxury.
Wow, some people just do anyway. But so how long were you in the space where you're almost paralyzed?
I would say that it was I was paralyzed for probably 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
With severe depression, anxiety, not sleeping. it was a dark place because my mom was very, very ill. I was having to see whether she was going to make it or not. But there's a time period where you've got the money, right? And you're spending it. Mom's not doing good. You're spending the money because fuck it. Like, whatever,
Credit card bills racking up?
No, because I didn't need credit card.
Got it.
I had the money.
Got it.
And so, the IRS I was handed slips that said you should pay these, right?
Right.
But they went somewhere else. They were quarterly checks that were put away, and I didn't do it.
Okay.
So it takes a minute for them to catch up with you. Well, when they catch up with you,
Yes.
they do. And I don't know why that, I really don't know why that didn't register with me. That was something that I numbed myself to a lot of things, and that was one of them. So when I did finally get that, Oprah says that first they speak to you in a whisper, whoever, the life lesson. And then it's a little bit louder, and then you get a brick
Right.
upside the head.
That was dose of reality.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 months you're struggling. How'd you turn the corner?
It was hard because I couldn't tell anybody, right? I felt that I couldn't tell anybody. There was a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. And my dad, even though he passed away when I was 12, I was in 6th grade. He was such a force. And I don't really care if it sounds corny, but I really did just feel a push from behind me as though it was a locomotive like engine. And so, as I mentioned, I made 19th, and I don't say this to toot my own horn because I'm really outing myself here. I made that $19,000, and the next year I made 87.
That's a huge jump.
It's a huge jump, and I just want people to know it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a lot that goes into this, and this isn't my whole story, obviously, but you asked how I got started.
Yeah.
I think
this is important.
and
A good origin story.
Yeah, it's really important, so authenticity and transparency. At that time, I needed all of those things to make me feel complete. And since then, I've been on a journey.
So 19 to 87, what were 2 or 3 things you started doing you weren't doing before?
So I think that inherently good salespeople know what they are supposed to do. The biggest obstacle to that is action. And so there's nothing like the story I just told to spur big action, big moves. I think I would have done it. I would like to have thought that I would have done it without that. So the question, what did I do? It's no secret to you that my entire business is built on my sphere of influence.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with buying leads. We've dipped our toe in that from time to time. It's not right for me. You were just saying before we started that you love to meet people.
Yeah. I love to get to know people.
Yeah.
Like if I don't love small talk, but if I'm going to actually interact with someone, let's go somewhere deep. I like something that's actually meaningful, so that I want to make a real connection.
Yeah, and I haven't always been ready for that.
Okay.
I really have enjoyed my 40s. Yeah, I think that I've enjoyed my entire life, and I honestly can say I have no regrets. But the action, taking action is just, it sounds so cliche and simple, but taking action, I knew what I needed to do. I had drank up all of this training, read all of these books, but, take action. And so I decided I was going to double down on my sphere of influence because I enjoy people. Not one day in this business has ever felt like sales to me. I mean, and I think that's what people fear in real estate is they don't want to knock on doors. They don't want to make cold calls. They don't want objection. And I haven't experienced it in the way that a lot of people frame it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that
Wow. What do you mean by that?
just back to creating relationships, going deep, and being okay if you don't win. I'm not for everybody.
I've seen you pissed off when you lost.
Yeah. I'm competitive.
Right.
But I mean, really being okay.
Yes.
That, letting go. I've, when I had a team, I told my team that it's like, have your pity party, but the shorter that you can shrink that, and I've had big, long pity parties, right? Mm-hmm. But my good friend Ray, we hold each other accountable, and so we just talked about this the other day. It's like the pity party has to shrink, because when you go back out there and take action, that's when the work gets done. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, cry about it, be upset, improve yourself. Don't be mad at the person, be mad at yourself. Ask them what you could have done differently to earn their business. Learn from it. Move forward.
What would you go back and tell your 2012 self that you've learned in the last 12 years? I mean, I know it's one of those deep questions that you have to probably think about even, but
yeah,
how have you really changed it? So you had a massive change where you went from kind of, acting like you were doing this to actually doing it. And, you built your business to great heights. But what really have you started to change or evolve over time or do differently that you wish you would have done sooner?
So I think one of the things that I've heard people say is, well, yeah, I could do it if I were Mark Branch. I could do it if I had. And so that's kind of like one of the things I want to dispel is that I had zero money in my account and I built myself back up, and that's been a secret until now. A closely guarded secret for good reasons. What I would tell my 2012 self would be, look within. Because my entire life up until then was looking outward for approval, looking outward for answers. And I just, not to get too woo-woo or,
go for it.
But I really feel like we have a large amount of information in the depths of our minds and in our hearts. And you don't need to turn outward. Like, be still and listen to your gut. Listen to all of the information that you've taken in preparation for your big moment. And that was my big moment. It was a make or break it.
That was the big moment.
Yeah. And there were some people, and I'm not going to say that I did not turn outward.
Sure.
In fact, I just closed a deal 2 days ago with the son of one of my greatest mentors. And, there were some very instrumental people in the absence of my father and, the coherency of my mother being able to give me the advice that she once had in business, because they were great business people. I mean, it's kind of epic, but that's another story.
I'm going to come back to that, actually,
yeah,
but go ahead.
To turn inward was something I was not comfortable with.
Yeah. And,
when you do it, experience breeds confidence, right? I'm a confident person.
Yes.
But, there's a difference between cocky and confident.
Yes.
And that was the year I learned that.
Okay. That makes sense. I can understand that. What do you think the biggest difference between cockiness and confidence is?
Cockiness is thinking you have it, right? Confidence is being told that you do, earning respect.
Earning it.
Yeah. And growing. And being open. I mean, if you're in this business or any business, Steve, when you stop having a willingness to learn is when you stop growing. And that is something that would be the biggest, I would want to shout from the mountaintops, because I am at a certain level of success. And I said, oh yeah, everybody thinks I could do it if I were Mark Branch. But the truth is, I have my idols, role models that I look up to. Stacey Berry, for one of them, had a great impact on my business. She knows it.
Okay, good.
First deal ever, I was crying. I did not want to go forward. She was
Wait,
on
what
the other
happened?
side of the transaction.
Tell me what happened.
Bro was correcting me. My client was correcting me in emails with grammar and,
Oh, my God.
and spelling, and really just power tripping.
And this is your very
And
first
it's my
transaction.
very first deal.
You have the buyer.
I have the seller.
You have the seller. Okay.
And it was a tough transaction. And so, it came to the inspection response, and it was like needless walls being thrown up, just power plays for no reason. And I just thought that if this is what it is, I don't want to do it. And so I went into my managing broker and I said, I'm good. I don't want to do this. And Dave Piccolo with Sheets, he really helped me through it. But more importantly, Stacy on the other side showed me grace. She showed me what true compassion, camaraderie, and the spirit of working together to get a deal done. See, I think a lot of real estate agents think that this is adversarial, like we're lawyers. We're not. Like, first of all, I didn't even get close to graduating college. I definitely didn't go to law school, and I don't get to have that kind of, that's not the energy.
Right.
And when you realize that, like Stacy showed me, that we're working together. Yes, we're representing the best interest of our clients, but we're working together to get to a goal. That was groundbreaking.
Well, I'm at High Garden, where you've been one of our top agents now for 3 years. I mean, it's really important there that we set that kind of tone of working together in collaboration, and really you lead the clubhouse in setting that tone. And so thank you for that, because whatever Stacy taught you, I see it on the daily. I mean, that's how you operate. And so it really helps our culture. And, that's the kind of real estate industry we want to work in. Let's work together.
I think it's the kind of real estate industry we have to work in.
Yeah.
And the faster that you realize, now there may be some people who watch this and say, that isn't the Mark Branch experience I got.
Okay.
And the reason why I will say that is I go hard, right?
You're still representing your client.
I am still representing my client. I have a fiduciary responsibility and a responsibility to have the best outcome. So it's not all lollipops and unicorns. But I am working a lot harder now. I would say so 2 years before I came to High Garden, there was a strong shift in my energy and in my attitude. And when I met up with first Chris, and Chris and I have this amazing connection.
Yes.
I did some social media training for you guys, and I thought, this is a ploy. And it wasn't. Now maybe it was, but Chris was just so, you guys, you're everything I'm not. You and Chris have this very, calm energy. And that was exactly what I needed. And not once have either one of you guys ever tried to be something that you're not, tout something that you are not. And that really spoke to me, especially in that time in my life. And so when you talk about what I do at the agency, how could you do anything different when from the top down, sorry, I'm not stroking your ego, but I'm just telling it the way it is. From the top down, that is what is shown to you day in and day out. And if you would go any other direction, it would just be pulling against what is natural.
Well, it feels good, not even on a personal level, but on a professional level to hear you say that, because that's actually the goal. And it was a few years ago, I'd say 5, 6 years. It was however many years ago, there was a shift to, okay, what we're really going to try to accomplish here is to be the brokerage where check your ego at the door and we work together. And we're looking for people that want to help other people and that will pay that. And then they're getting helped when they start, and they're helping other people, to pay it back. And so there's a real intention to bring on those types of people. And, I've already said it, but thank you for helping to set that tone, because, if the best agents in the office aren't doing that, then it's not going to work.
Yeah. One of the things that I think about is that, first of all, you go through this career and you build your business, and we all think that we're so original and the first on the scene. And I'll tell you, there's just not very many original ideas coming out of this shop over here.
Probably not.
Everything, as Tom Ferry would say, is ripped off and duplicated. It's the gusto, the energy that you bring to that, making it your own, right? And so the reason why I say that is I had my stuff under lock and key. I mean, we're talking like assistants signing NDAs. Like, I thought it was really important. And now it's like, I held those cards so close to my chest, and that shift that happened before I came to Highgarden was like, put my cards on the table. My cup gets filled by this. People say, what is your why? And my why, I get chills and you see me day in and day out meeting with agents in our office.
I do.
Not getting paid for that, no incentives. I literally get my cup filled when I see other people realizing their potential, turning it on like I did that year, and taking, their
Believing in themselves.
My best agent, Nathan, got fired from Crew Car Wash. We were good friends. All my people are past clients. It's like he did not know that in the 2 years leading up to him coming on my team, he had directly referred over $42,000 in commission to me, just because he liked me as an agent, liked me as a person, no ulterior motive. Do you know how much he made at Crew Car Wash?
No clue.
Less than $42,000. So the thing was like, you've got Nathan. This is like, you can do this. It took a lot of coaching and a lot of vulnerable, raw moments. But now, consistently, he is a great agent.
Yes.
Performing at the top of his game. That's what I like. I like putting my cards on the table, people saying, yeah, that works for me. I'm going to pick that up, make it my own. And then, probably in a few years doing better than I am.
Commission Row offers an unforgettable dining experience with high-quality steaks, a raw bar, and exquisite seafood curated by an expert culinary team. The menu, designed to delight every palate, features seasonal ingredients paired with an extensive wine and spirit selection. Open weekdays from 4 p.m. and for brunch at 10 a.m. on weekends. Continue the evening at Mel's Speakeasy below. After dining, enjoy an after-dinner drink with a wide selection of wines, cocktails, and spirits. Open daily from 5 p.m., Mel's is perfect for relaxing and unwinding. Commission Row and Mel's Speakeasy. An unforgettable dining experience awaits. What happened 2 years before you joined Highgarden that kind of flipped the switch on that? Anything specific, or it just kind of started to evolve?
I've had a series of reality checks.
Okay.
I shared one of them. And right as I was coming to Highgarden, started to have heart problems.
Cool.
Health will definitely give you that reality check. That's another brick upside the head. And so I think realizing that I can do it. I've got that confidence.
That makes sense. Okay.
What had been driving me for all those years was I needed to pay the IRS whether I had it or not. Now that I have it, I built it back. Why am I doing it? You know? Those tax bills and those obligations stripped me of my vanity. We live to this day in a we bought the house 7 years ago for $125,000. No one would imagine that would be where I live, or, it's just wild. Marcus, my husband, came in at the very moment that the money problem started. Also, when I was taking care of my mom. It takes a certain kind of partner. I think that's another thing that is really important to talk about.
Yes.
I know you have an amazing partner in life. I think that, we're all searching for what we think our perfect partner is. I think God shows us what our perfect partner is. And it doesn't always reflect with what we imagined. So that's something that having someone who is just down for whatever, we have fun in the grocery store. We cut up and laugh. We have fun doing big things, but we also have fun shopping. But what is really cool is that, he worked as a paralegal, also not making very much money for the city. And at the point where I was producing $10 to $12 million consistently, I needed a transaction manager. And it was kind of just like, hey, we don't have another choice. I can't pay somebody.
Right.
Come work for me. You'll make more, but you also get the fringe benefits, whatever those are. So we bought a very inexpensive... He bought a very inexpensive house because I was not good for anything. They don't care about real estate income. It can go up and down. So with his measly little salary, he bought, and that's a whole nother story about how we thought we were going to get more. We kept walking it down, and now we're in Community Heights, Irvington adjacent on the east side. Love it now. Did not love it then.
Yeah.
It was not Meridian Kessler.
No.
And we were just sitting outside by the fire last night, and we were talking how we wouldn't want it any other way. It's afforded us the ability to, my ego was stripped, my vanity was taken away. For 7 years, we did what we did, and now I'm a different person. Because of him, because of that, because of the health situations, I like this. I like where I am. For the first time in a while, I'm able to just say, okay, let's chill. What? I can stop being pushed.
You've mentioned alluded to the fact you have a team. It's
morphed. Yeah.
It's morphed a little bit. I was going to say
morphed.
It's changed some, but
Ever changing.
I'm assuming there might be a few people out there listening to this that are newer to real estate or haven't quite achieved certainly the success you have achieved. What have you learned about what it takes to make it in this business? Not through your own story, but seeing the stories of others that have been on your team.
Consistency, a daily schedule, the conviction to get up, the discipline, right? We're sold a really, really fake bill of sale on what this job is. I think we as an industry need to do better. We need to be better, especially us who are, veterans, agency owners. really explaining what it takes, what the fees are, what kind of, prep you need. Like, I don't use a thing from my real estate classes.
No.
And
Not
so
much.
the training that is available at the agencies, is invaluable. The discipline that is taught, anything after real estate school, right? And then just understanding that when I got into real estate, you couldn't have a part-time job at the agency that I was at. And that was a great thing at that time. Because it really separated the people from I think also it weeded out some people who could have been hella successful. They just didn't have the means like I did to do it. And I kind of mourn that because I see a lot of people that I worked with that I think would have been way better than I was, but just didn't have the financial ability to make it last. You need to know you're not going to get paychecks. And I think we need to be a little bit clear about, well, as you know, we're getting real clear about it here with what's unfolding as far as buyer agency, how we're compensated,
right,
the work we do. And it's high time that we step up and explain to the consumers the behind the scenes, what we are doing to earn that money, what the value that we bring to the table. And I think we're going to see that change so that the consumer understands more. And I also feel very strongly that it's going to change that the real estate agents are going to understand a little bit better in the next coming months and year or so what is required to truly be a top agent.
Yeah. I mean, if they aren't going to be able to articulate it and or demonstrate it, their value, they better know what it is. It's been kind of for the last few years, people understanding their own value has been a running theme in my mind and in conversations I'm having with them. And what I definitely see is not just at iGarden, but sometimes at iGarden and certainly throughout the industry, there's a lot of agents that really, at the end of the day, they don't understand their own value. And how all this that's happening with these commission settlements, the commission lawsuits, that proposed settlements that we're going through, and how it changes the industry. I mean, there's so many false narratives that are happening in the mainstream media about all this. It's not that the world is changing like that, but what it is forcing agents to do is to understand how to articulate their value. And if they don't, they're out. So people like yourself and people that understand their own value, they're going to win in all this because there's going to be a lot of hobbyists that are out.
Yeah, I think we can all understand our value, though. I mean,
Good.
I don't think it's just top agents. I think that this is the time, again, to turn inward and say, have you ever done a personal audit? And have you ever looked at what Highgarden presents to agents, to potential consumers? And I know the answer is yes. For me, I think the biggest thing that I would say right now for other agents is do an audit. Google yourself. Dig deep. What are other people hearing and seeing? Because we like to say a lot. I am the biggest criminal of that. But what I have been trying to do now is to take inventory.
When you say a lot, you mean to speak to your value, or what do you?
No, we like to talk a lot about, how great the transaction's going to be, how easy it's going to be, and I think that's where we shot ourselves in the foot.
Oh, I see.
Right? So one of the coaches that I really admire gave an analogy that just has never left my mind. Is, when you are trying to sell yourself, you say to someone, it's going to be so much fun. Oh my gosh, we are going to have a blast. We're going to be best friends. We're going to go get coffee. We're going to find the house of your dreams. And it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows. And what she said is like that you are really selling yourself short, because that's not what it is. That's not what life is, right? So why don't you frame it like this? And I've never gone to war. I've never been in the army, but I mean, you've seen movies and you've heard stories about, like, this is a minefield. And I have walked through it. So Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller, my job is to help you navigate this minefield without casualty in the best way that I can. And it's not going to be rainbows. It's not going to be lollipops, but we are going to get through this, and you may get shell-shocked. You might lose an arm, but you're going to be alive. And you're going to be alive because I've walked this before. I'm going to help you through it. And I think when we get real about all of the financial problems that there can be in a transaction, legal problems, you know, inspection, all of those things, and we talk to our consumers instead of saying it's going to be fun and it's going to be a blast, tell it like it is. It could be rough. You may not love the house. It may not be everything you thought it's going to be, but I will not let you come out on the other side of it worse than you started.
It makes me think about something that people that aren't in real estate, they don't even necessarily know what the difference is between a buyer's agent and a listing agent, or working with a seller versus exactly. And when they get into real estate, and oftentimes people start in real estate, they're usually working with buyers first. That was why when you said seller of your first transaction, I was a little surprised, because that's not common.
Sphere of influence.
One of the ways I've talked about with agents about how it's different is with sellers, the way you set expectations really sets you up for success or failure. And not that that's not true for buyers, but I really think with the shift that we're happening here with buyer agency, really the way a seller does a listing agreement with a listing agent is going to be very similar to the way a buyer will do a buyer's agreement with a buyer agent. And now it comes back to if you were good at setting the proper expectations, the minefield as an analogy works perfectly, I think, to help do that. If you were good with sellers to do that, you should be able to be good with buyers to do that. I really view these as parallel.
That's the framework. And the quicker that we realize that that is now required. And just, you know, you ask, well, like, lessons learned. It's like, respect yourself and your time. Don't have commission breath. I literally would take any deal when I started. And I think we all do that. Because you need to buy groceries, you need to pay your car, you need to do those things. I think the quicker, and one of my favorite lessons that I even learned recently, is know when to cut your losses, right?
I always say it's the most advanced skill of a realtor is to know when to cut bait.
Yep.
I don't know if this is a real estate situation.
It was, and I was in your office.
Oh, okay. Well, I get it. I might remember.
Well, what I was saying was just respecting yourself as a realist, as a professional in any industry, but especially in this one, understanding that, like I said earlier, not everybody is for you, and you are not for everybody. And sometimes it's better to say, you know, I don't think I'm the right real estate agent for you. And however frame you want to do that, I think your needs might be better met somewhere else. And, you know, that's another thing. In my contracts, I always give the ability for a person to take a mutual release at any time with no penalty. Never have penalized anyone for getting out. So when you're talking about setting expectations and framework, like when you think about contracts, don't you just kind of like seize up? You know, you're like, oh, I don't want to sign something. I don't want to be married to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's a fear a lot of agents are having right now.
Okay, so we have to have this contract, right? Again, going back to confidence. If I show you my worth, and I am delivering, you'll have no issue with being in a contract with me. You'll want to be.
Yeah.
So then
That's the confidence.
that's the expectation setting. Because when you pull someone in on a listing contract and you say, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to sell your house. Well, this intake meeting as a buyer agent needs to do the exact same thing. It needs to articulate what you're going to do, the value that you bring, the service you are providing, and the buyer will be confident in your ability to get them, because at the end of the day, when you articulate that, if the buyer says, still don't see it, don't beg. Because there are 10 people out there who want to work with you. So
How have you helped people on your team understand that? Or have you been able to?
So I think that, modeling is the best teacher. So, having, for anyone who's ever worked with me, just coming in and watching it and understanding that, it's not a script.
Right.
And just learning and then feeling confident again to articulate those things. And, one of my biggest pet peeves is people who say fake it till you make it.
A lot of people say that in this industry.
Why?
You tell me. Let's see. Because they think it's good advice that you have to, because you don't want to look desperate and so act confident, and then you will be confident. That's kind of the thing.
Okay, so it's probably worked for a lot of people.
No, I'm not saying, and well, tell me why it's your pet peeve.
Fake it until you make it. It makes me feel gross.
Yeah. Well, it's not the authentic way that we're trying to help everybody understand is better.
Well, and what I think it could lead to, and what I've seen it lead to, and again, I was taught this early on by my dad and my mom in business, and then later in real estate by some great managing brokers. If you don't know the answer, you ask me about something about construction, and I fake it
Right.
until I make it. Like, if you fake it, you're not going to make it. I'm sorry to bust the bubble here, but when you do that, you're setting yourself up for failure, because the first time that I lose your trust will be the last time. And so many times I have just said, you know what, Steve, that is a great question. And although I don't have the answer right now, I'm going to get you the answer. And if you don't like that from me, then you're not my dude, But if you're like, well, okay, like, quietly, like you're not praising me, but you're just like, all right, I respect that. Like, he's going to go talk to somebody, get me real answers. Then I think, because real estate agents so often try to answer everything. And we wear so many hats that it's tempting to talk about mortgage. It's tempting to talk about inspections. It's tempting to talk about a lot of things, but guess what? I don't know that. And I don't even want to know those things, right? So I just say, I'll get back to you. Let me have my professional who does this for a living answer those questions, and I will guide you through the process.
You touched on your mom and dad there again, and you talked about your mom a little bit here earlier, but you didn't really go too much on your dad. And I know, and having talked to you before, and you obviously alluded to the role model at which he kind of helped you understand the world and build your business. What did he do and how?
So humble, right? Didn't graduate 6th grade. He bought a dump truck. He talked the bank owner. Bank owner, we don't have those anymore. Talked the bank owner into loaning him money to get a dump truck when he was 14. Couldn't even drive. So a few things wrong.
I wish I was in there in that meeting.
Right? Talk about persuasion.
14-year-old, give me a loan for a dump truck?
And had to tell him, had to tell Warner Morgan what he was going to do with the money and how he was going to do it, and convey belief.
What town is this?
Summitville, Indiana, so a little between Marion and Anderson. It's a very small town, doesn't even have a stoplight. It might now, it might blink, I'm not sure. But, so went out and just killed it, hauling dirt, and then paid off that dump truck and just built his business brick by brick by brick, ultimately having one of the most successful sand and gravel companies in central Indiana. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of farmland, and you would never know it. He drove a beat-up pickup truck. He wore high-water work pants. He was a workaholic. What he taught me was integrity. What he taught me long, long after he passed away is integrity. I have had multiple people come to me and say, your dad changed my life. And I don't even know who these people are. One gentleman said, I didn't know this until much later, but your dad bought me a bicycle every Christmas because we had no money. He would put it on the front porch. Small things, right? But this man's persuasion, this man's ability to get people to drink the Kool-Aid was wild. And I had the privilege of playing Matchbox cars under the dining room table at, 10 o'clock at night at my young age. And I really, truly, sincerely believe that he had me with him every moment that he possibly could, in the dump truck, wherever, in the shop. And I just heard what he said, how he conducted himself. And it downloaded. I didn't use it till later, but it downloaded. And there are times when I will get done, with a conversation. And it what? Me. And I just go, whoa, that's cool. That was Dad.
Why?
Can we cut for a minute? Sorry.
You're good, man. Honestly, having someone be open and transparent is exactly what I have passion about doing this. So don't be sorry. I'm grateful that you trust me enough to open up.
Well, you've earned that trust, and the cool thing is that there have been some very instrumental people in my life, and over the past couple of years, you have become, that's why I'm willing to sit down and open up.
Thank you.
Because we do this on a pretty regular basis in our offices, and you helped just by listening and also being there in a way that I will be forever grateful. And that's why I'm it's when you surround yourself with people. I think that's one of the things, talking about my, obviously my dad, but he had this really cool core group of people.
Well, it sounds to me like he was almost like, you like the movie It's a Wonderful Life. It sounds to me he's almost like the George Bailey of Summitville. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
He was everybody's best friend.
He just
had that kind of connector.
He didn't have a bone in his body, and I wish I would have learned this sooner. He didn't have a bone in his body that was about, trying to be something that he wasn't. He really genuinely cared about people, but he was tough.
Okay.
He was scary, just because he had a deep voice, and, he just listening to the stories of all of his buddies, of, the shenanigans that they got into. Like, you don't want to be on the wrong side of branch. So, but then seeing that loving side and seeing the family side, I mean, there was nothing, he wanted more than to have a son, and he had it very late in life.
Okay.
And so there was a lot of expectations put on me. There was a lot of judgment. And, for another interview some other time, I guess it would be, I didn't want to disappoint. And I think that was one of the reasons I needed to get out of my small town. And I think that's a lot of reasons why a lot of people feel they need to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Especially being from rural Indiana.
Yeah.
And having expectations. Expectations suck. So, and they will eat you alive.
Well, I feel very confident in saying you have not disappointed. You've made him very proud.
Yeah, I've got a long ways to go. But it feels good. It feels good to have that energy behind me, and knowing that I have my mom and my dad still in my corner, and now I can kind of go confidently forward.
You say you have a long ways to go, but where do you want to go?
Yeah, one of my favorite things is just I'm just getting started. I've got some young friends around me that have recently made me realize I'm not as young as I thought that I was, and I never thought I'd say that. So, being early 40s, I still have a lot to do. And so, there's pivoting that's happening, diversifying. I used to want to do everything all at once, and I realized quickly I couldn't do that. And now I'm honing in on what I know I'm truly good at, and using my resources because, still I'm building back, and just not letting myself get carried away again. We're going to stay put. We're going to stay in the house that we're in. We're going to purchase other ones like we have. We want doors now.
Okay, smart.
We are, big on future planning, and also realizing that all good things come to an end. So, never putting all of my eggs in one basket.
Something I'm going to probably ask every guest is, what music do you listen to, and who's your favorite band?
Oh man,
You post
so much flack for this.
Well, no, you just gotta tell it like it is.
Do I? Okay.
Yeah.
So I listen to country music. A lot of Garth Brooks, a lot of early '90s country music. That's come back just in the last couple of years since we've been boating and living that lake life, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in my car on any given day, you're gonna hear the divas. You're gonna hear Christina Aguilera, Beyonce, Celine Dion, stereotypical gay. And then you're also
Cher, or we have Cher?
No,
just
no,
double checking.
No. I mean, nothing. Sorry, Cher.
She's
watching
for sure.
Clearly. And then you're gonna hear Limp Bizkit, Kanye West, Jay-Z. I'm really big on hip hop. So it's pretty eclectic.
That's awesome.
And the Spa channel.
When you just need to decompress in the car?
Deep breathing. I get hot real fast. You know this.
You've been doing breath work, haven't you?
Yes.
How's that going? I don't know anything about breath work.
It's there's a few things I've learned that have, it's a tool belt that I am continuing to build that helps me not be quick to fire like I have been in the past. So it's not just one thing, but it's a lot of things. I've had a lot of panic and anxiety in my life. And so for the last, oddly enough, 3 years, have not had panic and anxiety. So
Coincidence?
So, I just, the energy is it's got to be good around. I know that's a cliche thing too, but it really has to be good. In the moment that it's not good, it needs to be expelled. The quicker you get it away, the better.
The spa channel, huh?
Yeah, please, XM radio. Yes.
I can't say as I've ever spent any time on the spa channel, but I do enjoy spa music.
You would probably just fall asleep.
I might.
Yeah.
Maybe I should.
But it takes a certain amount of things to get me wound down. So, like, you know, a lot of people need fired up, and I don't need that.
Mark, I want to thank you for having a conversation with me today.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me. It was fun.